Too early gives yourself that nice cushion moving forward.
And it's each match is what you can look at it. Each match is money,
Right.
because if
course.
you win a match, you're guaranteed a higher placing, which means more prizing.
Ever closer to the $2,500 for first place. Man, that's a good chunk of change. I
It
love
is. That is. Well, compLexity, they have readied up Cloud9 and Maelstrom. They're thinking about it. They're thinking hard. They want to get ready. Now, we can't really stress enough that this is a brand new patch. This is the first tournament on the Sylvanas patch. And like we said, Sylvanas, Tomb of the Spider Queen, not active. But heroes like Uther, Tyrande, there's been a lot of changes made.
Huge amount of changes, a lot of swapping of their talents. So we'll do our best to walk you through those changes. And if we see heroes that we haven't seen picked up in the last month or so,
right,
we'll be able to look at some of those patch changes and really try to offer some insight as to why they're maybe prioritizing something that's just unheard of.
Well, the draft is about to begin,
Yes,
so we will switch over to the draft screen, and we can see that Cursed Hollow is going to be the first map of the night.
That's right. Also, Rhaegar immediately banned out. Not seeing too many changes. Actually, the only change I think that happened to Rhaegar was the adjustment to Healing Ward, which was a 30% total HP over 10 seconds. Now is 30% total HP over 15 seconds. So just a 5-second nerf there. It's also heals at a slower rate, of course.
Yes, from 3% to 2% every single second. So it makes it, I think it's a really nice balance. It just kind of, it's a nerf, but it also can reward the team for being able to protect it longer, because in the end, it can heal more. It just takes 5 seconds extra to do that. Now,
ETC.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting to see ETC Rhaegar being the bans in this draft.
Not too unheard of, and also these heroes didn't see a huge amount of changes over this last patch. ETC getting Hardened Shield now at level 20. He's still the beast that he was before. Get it? All right.
I got you.
I
got you.
That's it. That's my one for the whole series. I'll be good.
Well, yeah, and like you said, though, Rhaegar, I mean, especially with the changes to Uther, a lot of teams are really going to value Rhaegar as that #1 support, and this will likely signal Cloud9 to, I was going to say, go for that big damage dealer Vala, but she saw some nerfs too, and even though Stitches, he received a bit of a hit, they're still prioritizing him.
Yeah, so he does not have the pulverize AoE stun that was ever prevalent in the previous patches, which is so nice for dealing with those channeled heroics that allowed heroes to move around. So we even saw some Lili was being popularized during some of the previous patches. That Jug of 1,000 Cups can be stunned out by the previous pulverize. Vala's Strafe. There's a lot of things, even Nazebo, although he was starting to fall off a little bit, it was pretty valuable for all of those things. No longer a stun, it is I believe a 25% slow for 3 seconds, which changes the value. Obviously, it's good. It's going to help you control those fights, but I don't think it's going to be picked up too much. And Jake's getting real excited. He's pointing at the screen. He's like, yeah.
This is what I'm all about. All right. Stitches leans towards those pick compositions, right? You get stuff like Jaina, Tyrande, things that really complement it. You pull with the hook, utilize it, and just annihilate the target that you pull on in. Well, Jaina just saw a buff across the board,
big buffs,
and compLexity is well aware that even before Jaina got buffed, K1 Pro considered himself to be he was the one and only Jaina main in the competitive scene.
Speaking of scoops, look at this.
They pick them both up.
Okay, so we're getting excited because the big combo that has been popularized in the past is Stitches, and especially Tyrande, but also if you can pick up Tyrande and Jaina together with that combo, it's dirty, it's disgusting.
It's decimating.
And you are very easily able to kill whomever gets pulled in by the hook. So you just put a little bit of faith in the Stitches player to pick up anyone. It could be a Diablo. They get blown up so fast with the 100 mark. Yeah.
That's what I love,
it's great drafting.
Is the fact that compLexity, sure, they can't get Stitches, but they could just scoop up Diablo
Yeah, they could.
So now this is a tough call for Cloud9. They're going to grab that Uther. Now, Rhaegar's banned out. Uther has seen changes, but he's still a very, very strong healer.
Was very strong in the previous patch. Due to the ghost form and how it sort of interacted, it's difficult to counterplay against it because you can, if you happen to die early in the fight, you can still ghost in and hit those huge divine storms. Now you can't cast any abilities in the ghost form except for a new heal that he gets, which is it's on a 1.5 second cooldown. It's a considerable amount of heal, so we'll have to see how that plays into it. But there's a lot of new talents available for Uther, and we also see the Tassadar picked up.
Look at this, Kubi. We looked at those roster cards. Most picked hero, Vala. Here we are. Vala has not been even thought about yet, it seems. Tassadar, of course, provides. He's that middle of the road. You put him with an Uther, you have the healing ward, you have the shielding, and he also has great damage output. So he really complements what they have, and it keeps their composition to the point where they can do whatever they want at this point in time. But leaving Vala on the table for complexity, if they just want to kind of leave their tank for their final pick, I think they're in a great spot here.
They could do it. That's really the big question. What we're going to see with these picks for complexity moving forward. Do they prioritize Diablo? I don't think that really getting or forcing themselves to have to take Muradin, let's say, is really that great of a position for them to put themselves in. So I think Diablo is something they should strive for, and they have to weigh out, does Cloud9 scoop up the double warrior? And oh man, they're really putting themselves in that spot, because it might not be what they really want, but Illidan is another hero that also synergizes very well with Diablo.
Yeah, he does. He really does.
They could go for the double tank, but then what are they following that up with damage-wise? Because they are going to, yes, Tassadar will put out some damage, but you need to make sure that whoever your last pick is, Jaina would have been excellent if that was available for them. It's going to be interesting.
Now, there's a lot of options on the table. Maelstrom needs that damage, and they could easily just pick up Zagara Vala and call it a day, but they could do something weird. They could go with Vikings. We've seen them start to pick up a lot of pace in terms of their capability of soaking all of the lanes to maximize their experience. As you have those tributes, they provide a lot of utility there, but they're going for Zeratul. Now, VP Hook, that's old school.
Yeah, that is very, so of course you pull someone in, and then the rest of the team will move forward to try to save that person if possible. That's where you're going to get a ton of value out of VP. Divine Storm, yes, also quite good. Archon will get some use out of that, but they're going to pick up a hero that has some more larger AoE. Okay, we actually saw some of this past weekend. The double, I don't know what you want to call that, like bubble stall out type heroics. The Maw and the Void Prison.
It's just damage control. You need to get out of a situation. You want complete control over a battlefield. Void Prison, Maw, they're literally the two biggest heroics in terms of just controlling the battlefield. Yeah, you could make a claim for Emerald Wind, but I like this. I think this is going to be really interesting.
It's very, I want to say, stall-ish. I know Cloud9 Maelstrom is known for doing this, but they're more so only going to be taking fights that are really on their terms, right? Their damage output isn't as high as what you see for complexity. So I think complexity is probably going to be the aggressive team in terms of trying to force bad situations, but Cloud9 Maelstrom is really going to be putting a lot of stock into the hook and making sure that they are able to force positions. Now, thankfully for Cloud9 Maelstrom, so it's good on them for drafting around this, but Cursed Hollow happens to be a great map for landing hooks that are super impactful.
They can just outright win fights, especially if you can get that Jaina, that squishy target. She doesn't have a lot of escape. Even Tyrande, a very easy target to just kind of eliminate if you can pull her. But they have that final pick. Now, we talked about Diablo being a huge
I just
option.
have to imagine it has to be Diablo.
But Chen is also seeing a lot of popularity on Cursed. And the power of the barrel to steal, the power to just control fights between Emerald Wind and the barrel, it's going to be hard for them to execute that flawlessly. But these guys are at the very top level, and if anyone can do it, it is one of these teams.
We've seen them execute so many ridiculous combos with Diablo, though. What is it? Arthas?
No. What?
You were talking to me earlier today. We were talking about the balance of certain hero groups, and you said, this came out of your mouth, literally. You said all the supports and every warrior is viable moving forward.
But I said Arthas was clearly at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's what I did clarify that, and I said I think he has his place, but it's very specific.
Yeah, is
that place, though? Is that the place? They have the blow-up idea with Tyrande Jaina. They even have the poly with the critter eyes for late game also, so you can even double up the time from that amplified damage that the enemies receive.
Arthas?
Okay, well, didn't I say he synergizes well with heroes like Thrall and Illidan? And that's what we're seeing.
You said, you mentioned Thrall. We were sort of theory crafting, like, what weird stuff are we going to see tonight? This qualifies as pretty weird, I'd say.
And
Arthas.
You might be saying, guys, it's the Lich King. Of course he's going to be awesome. Well, Arthas is awesome. He's been popular in the meta before for a very long time.
Very
actually.
popular. One of the highest picked
He was
warriors
for
sure.
a while,
For some time.
But he saw some changes.
A lot of changes.
And well, I'm actually just ecstatic because we have not seen him in probably a couple months. So we're gonna let the players know that we are
Absolutely.
ready.
Wow. Okay, so some of the changes that we did see to him previously, the ghouls for Army of the Dead heal quite a bit less now. I think something like 30, almost 40% less HP per. So he didn't have that sticking ability in the fights. That's why he was so good.
True.
He was so annoying before he could throw down the Army of the Dead. It was difficult to play around, but you could, continuously tap R and just stay alive. It was almost like they had to ignore you. So during all this time, you had your Frozen Tempest up. You're slowing. You're dealing damage over time. Just so difficult to deal with, and we're perhaps going to see some Arthas of the old back. So of course you got to keep an eye on. He doesn't have the same sustainability, self-sustain that he had before. But what do they have in store for him? He's going to pair well with Illidan for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be all about. Frozen Tempest, just locking those targets down, disallowing them from getting away. And if we look at the enemy team's composition, yeah, they have Uther, and Stitches is their tank, but Stitches is much more squishy. So
That's true.
If,
he did
if
lose
they
HP.
if they can't get away and they have the slow of Jaina, the slow of Arthas, with an Illidan and a Tyrande just kind of laying down the extra damage and support, and Brightwing polymorphing those priority targets, there's a lot of potential there.
The roaming combo as well. I believe he lost in Venom.
He did.
Previous, not that's this patch that just hit Tuesday, but
quite a
previous
while ago,
patch. He
actually.
lost in Venom, but he does have the Howling Blast too. That is like a second route
Very true.
that is going to fit into this roaming style that we're so used to seeing Arthas play. Also with Tyrande, etc., and Jaina. So there could be some crazy early game potential for compLexity.
Well, we will see what they are able to do in this game, Kubi. Let us introduce our teams with the blue side. That is, in fact, compLexity, and they're doing some nice shenanigans here. Arthas in the middle dancing, being played by Urho. Kianda is going to be on Tyrande. McIntyre playing Illidan. Blinks on Brightwing, and rounding it out is going to be Trummel playing Jaina.
That's right, and on the red side, we have King Caffeine on Stitches. Dunk Train's going to be playing Uther. K1 Pro on Zagara. Biceps going to be playing Tassadar, and iDream will be rounding it out with Zeratul, and together they form Cloud9 Maelstrom.
And they've got all of those wondrous Protoss brothers, and by all of them, I mean the two of them. And look at that! Right off the bat, Scouting Drone saw a big change. This is something that we talked about on the podcast we do, and we even had Liquid Chef, and he's like, I don't think we're going to see it. Brightwing picked it up at level 1.
Biceps definitely going to die here.
Oh,
sure.
Boy. Okay, so quick early gank. I was too excited about that Scouting Drone, but look at the vision it's providing right now.
That is cool, and what's nice about that is those are very common places for Stitches players to hide. So they could be looking at the scenarios, and maybe they're trying to get some early game ganks, which that's another thing we gotta talk about. There's so many changes in this last patch. There's actually more experiences granted per early kill than we saw previous. So before, if we saw those early kills, like, right out of the gate, there were more statement plays than anything else because the experience you got was something equal to like 3 creeps. It's a little bit more now, and you can see that experience. It's there. They're going to be looking for these early aggressive kills.
And it adds up. It adds up quickly.
It does.
It feels very impactful getting those early game kills. And, well, already we do have that 1 kill lead. You can see the blue team sitting in nice and advantageous position. Now, Trummel does get hooked, but there's no follow-up for Caffeine. A beautiful hook, and now he's being chased down by Trummel, Kianda, and, of course, Urho playing that Arthas. Very, very careful dance between these two teams.
Yeah, the follow-up play to that would, of course, been Dunk Train and K1 Pro moving forward to block out Trummel from getting back to his gate, but he could always run north, and you're going to take some tower shots doing that as well, which they've actually drained out quite a few of. Did we see a demolition? No, we didn't. Just the extra HP on those roaches, able to soak up those tower shots quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a really nice talent that Corpse Feeders just allows Zagara to push so effectively. It almost makes having demolition is negligible in some ways. So we do have just this constant roam from iDream. He needs to continue to soak, but I'm very interested to see what the teams go for at level 4.
Yeah. Real quick before we get there, actually Overload, we haven't seen the range increase on Psionic Storm in some time. It's pretty good on this map too because it allows you to stall out those tributes if needed, just a little bit further away, a little bit safer.
That's true. The other options, of course, actually very commonly we do see Conjurer's Pursuit here on this map because of the length of the map. That's something that adds up. You get the additional mana regen. And actually we do see the Arcane Intellect being picked up by Jaina, so that's just opting for the more sustainable mana pool throughout the game. That almost makes it so Jaina just has infinite mana whenever she's at least doing the lane.
Double Frostmourne Hunger, talent upgrades for Arthas. We've been paying attention to that, and Arrow is actually finding himself in a bit of trouble, trading a lot of damage with King Caffeine. Does pick up the second kill for compLexity. Actually, Arrow, no, the Envenom for Zagar was just enough damage to get the kill. Dunk Train now fighting himself in a bit of trouble with the Lunar Flare is actually going to be enough with the Hunter's Mark to get kills. Trading so many kills out early game between these two teams right below the first tribute.
Yeah, let's talk about that Uther Ghost, though. The Uther Ghost can no longer use auto attacks or normal abilities. He just has a very short cooldown, a 1.5-second cooldown, and he can dish out a massive amount of healing. So that's why K1 Pro and iDream were able to stay so healthy in that situation, and they're going to be able to just continue stalling out, contesting this tribute. Uther, I mean, those death timers are very low. He is well on his way back, and Stitches will be rotating down just a moment, but Blinks, he's going to be able to do it!
Yeah, I was expecting Cloud9 to either give it up completely and just continue soaking to try and catch up on those experience lead from the 2-kill deficit, or just perhaps to have Zeratul stall out with some safe bombs here and there to try to maximize that, because of course they're having extra presence at that tribute to make sure that they get, of course, complexity. So, weren't probably able to stall long enough, and we do see that Zeratul has just died mid, I'll guess.
Now let's actually just talk about something. Not in this patch that happened this week. The previous patch, Zeratul a change was made where he can no longer blink out of roots, and that's something that we didn't really consider when we saw the Arthas pick up. With Zeratul being one of their main damages, the root actually puts him in a terrible situation. It lasts for a long time, and I don't want to, raise that alarm too high, but Syndragosa has seen a decent amount of play recently.
That's true. That is true. We could see it. I'm still thinking likely not, but we'll leave the option open.
I mean, look at this. It's a full-on Frost Strike build. I mean, Eternal Hunger and the Destruction, and then the Frost Strike being picked up. That's going to make Arthas. It gives them just a lot of damage.
Yeah, a lot of chase potential too. That's extra slow, and I think even at 13 or 16, there's an extra charge for this ability. So if they really want to spec into it, they can. And he's going to hit quite hard with that stacking board, and he'll always have that mana up for it. All right, we're getting ever closer. I'm really excited for level 10. I just want to see.
I know.
See what the rogues are going to grab.
Now, both teams just trying to apply that structural damage. Jaina does get hooked in and buy Stitches here in the bottom lane. And another change that was made in this patch is now Jaina's passive applies to structures and grave golems. So her pressure just going into those towers in general is much more terrifying. And they do force McIntyre to back. The tributes are 1-to-1, third tribute of the game spawning here in the top part of the map. And Jaina does get hooked in. She will die from this.
Yeah. Jaina's, although quite a strong hero damage output-wise, does lack the escapes, especially before level 13. And, quick disconnect, he's back. So, like I was saying, Sprint could be grabbed level 13, although lately we've been seeing Jaina players getting very comfortable with their spacing and their positioning where they can start to grab Icy Veins or anything else to really increase their utility.
Yeah, I just want to talk about this positioning on these two drones, the scouting drones. They changed scouting drone. They reduced its duration, they reduced its cooldown, but they gave it 2 charges. And it seems like a much better ability, and the fact that they're just using it to zone out safely for the tributes is really quite cool. And again, you talked about that Stitches positioning too, to just kind of cover options for that, is going to allow them to make so many more aggressive plays and continue to soak while those plays are happening.
Yeah, it also takes an extra auto attack. Probably not going to be as impactful, but sure, you will have a little bit extra time. Not quite something you can just slap on the way down to a tribute. You have to spend, a little bit more time to spout it, and since, like I said, there's that extra charge, that's also a big deal. compLexity, trying to take a fairly early Grave Golem, and this times out possibly. There's definitely some aggression here from Cloud9.
Oh my goodness, there goes the VP Maul combo we talked about, but iDream is not able to get on top of that. iDream will end up falling. The boss is picked up and the Metamorph is going in. K1 Pro will get blown up. King Caffeine is in a terrible position, and that is going to be a huge fight here for compLexity Gaming. They have taken 3 kills. They've taken a boss. This is going to give them a curse, and the amount of aggression they can follow up with a second boss, I mean, everything is looking great for them right now.
Sure, they have tons of options moving forward, and we actually see 2 of the heroes are starting to rotate top. And all of this happening before the curse hits, big deal. I was a little bit confused as to what they were hoping the follow-up would be in that fight with the Void Prison going down at the same exact time. Biceps now caught a little bit too far forward, and the Lunar Flare is going to secure the kill. Barrel Boys have all of a sudden taken a huge momentum lead in game number 1 of this first series.
Yeah, I mean, compLexity is going to take out that fort. The boss in the bottom lane will get that fort. Brightwing has been soaking bottom this whole time. Phase shifts up into the middle. They decided they want to get incredibly aggressive. The bruisers that they took even before all of that have now reached this, and there goes the bottom fort on top of it. Level 13, Kubi. That's a 2-level advantage. Only 8 minutes into this game.
And between such strong teams, it's rare to see, I guess, an advantage that is so heavy. With the hook thrown down, Keonda is one of the stronger targets to grab if possible. They just didn't have the damage follow-up that would at least be safe to try to eliminate her. So although the hook didn't end up getting the kill, it does back up the aggression for compLexity, and Cloud9 Maelstrom will cut their losses at just about a wall and 2 forts through this curse.
Now, I like the positionings on these creep tumors. We do have Cloud9 having the full vision on compLexity, but they know this boss is going to keep them busy for quite some time, and that's why they're completely safe to walk up into the top, especially with Hunter's Mark. I mean, look how quickly that goal fell.
Yeah, it's dying pretty fast. All right, so we're going to get a chance to talk about some of the heroics, some of the ones that might be a little bit more up for contention. Blink heal for Brightwing, so no big disengage with the Emerald Wind, and of course Army of the Dead for Arthas, so he can get the extra survivability. Everything on the Cloud9 side of things is pretty standard.
Yeah,
the Maw, the lockdown for the VP, and the Archon.
The new Archon icon is wonderful. Just want to point that out. That's what you guys are looking at there. If you're saying, hey, what is that? Well, the boss is marching down the top lane. That is keeping Zagara busy and allowing compLexity to put that pressure onto this middle keep. They will end up getting it, and this is huge. This early in the game to pick up a keep, that's catapults for the duration of the game.
So, moving forward for Cloud9, they need to really try to capitalize on the strengths that their team has at this point. They have a ton of potential to lock out the enemy team after hooks. So they need to try to force some odd positioning that will allow them to get that single pick. And they can certainly take these 4v5 fights. I'm not saying that their general damage output isn't enough to move forward there, but they need to really maximize the potential on these hook pulls that they can get.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about just kind of the pick style that they potentially wanted to go for.
Yeah.
And then we have that deny on the Jaina Tyrande. Sure, that's great, but they're still more than capable of picking out those kills because they have the burst of Zeratul, they have the stun with Uther, and Zagara, I mean, Hydralisk, if they can just auto-attack you, you die.
So we'll have to see moving forward what positionings that they put themselves in. And we have this tribute that will give sort of a point for the two teams to fight over. It's not a critical tribute, so we may actually see compLexity not put a huge amount of stock into it, although there really isn't a lot for them to do elsewhere on the map. They have a sizable level lead, this 2-level lead. So compLexity can get aggressive if they want to, and King Caffeine has himself in a hidden position. The visibility going down for both teams.
And let's see how those scouting drones are used. So one goes down in the background, a nice hook onto Brightwing, but of course Blink heal is going to make Blinks so difficult to kill. And, well, McIntyre just kind of baiting out the Zerglings, iGems, just removing that, but they were able to sneakily pick up that trigger, putting the second one on the board for Cloud9.
Didn't want to take too aggressive of a fight. compLexity didn't, and if it wasn't necessary, they still have a very sizable lead. And now they have level 16, which gives them a tier advantage in utility. That's going to be some extra survivability for say, Illidan. For Uther, that's the critterized extra damage output. So now their burst potential between Brightwing and Hunter's Mark, it gets
True Shot
really
or
scary
being picked up here on top of it.
Yeah, when you combine the two.
Actually, after we talk about this hook going in onto Blinks, they try to lay out the damage, but not quite enough. Starfall is doing a lot, but a nice disengage with that Maw. Now, we do see Zagar is the first and only member to fall in terms of this fight so far, but the pressure is going to be here from compLexity, powering through that wall in only seconds, and the hook connects with a minion. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, just they're hitting Maws onto targets to really disrupt fights, but they're just not getting the follow-up. And of course, that 2-level lead and those extra talents is going to have a huge play into that. But they really have to sort of sit back and say, what's the best way to maximize if we hit Maws onto particular targets? Like, who do we blow up? The hooks, we've seen them, hit in the past on Brightwing. There's only so many targets. It's really coming down to Jaina and Tyrande that they need to hit those hooks onto, which is no easy task. Illidan can be nice, but he has a lot of ways to escape. He can use his heroic to get out. But of course, the blink and then Arthas' survivability, it's going to make priority targets difficult for Cloud9.
Yeah, it really is, and we've seen that just throughout the entire game because, like I said, not had a huge impact because of that. But let's actually just talk a little bit about Tyrande. Now, she's one of those heroes that has seen a big change.
Yeah.
And look at this build. It's just actually so much. We never, ever, ever see healing talents other than Healing Ward with Tyrande. Because in the past, she wasn't ever really, that's not her utility. She's more of like she's going to help you blow people up. She's going to be used for that Hunter's Mark. And we see battle momentum that's just going to, just reduce her cooldowns. They increase the cooldown on her heal, but increase the healing on it. But she also picked up Overflowing Light.
Which previously you needed to be above 90% HP. Now it's 50%. That's a lot more viable to try to have that up in the middle of the fights. And with battle momentum, like you said, she's like almost becoming a solo hero by herself if you want to talent into her that way. Not quite as good, obviously, and they still have that second healer, but the sustainability is so much higher than what it was before in the previous patch with this hero composition.
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying this build. I mean, you also consider the fact that she's giving True Shot Aura that's 50% more attack damage, and you give that 50% attack damage to an Illidan alone, that's scary, but to the rest of the team, oh, that's quite good. So
all right, Jake. We're at level 16 for Cloud9 Maelstrom. This is where things change a lot for them. That's where we get Fishing Hook. That's even more range, 50% extra range to the hook ability for Stitches. They can get picks from so much further away. There's more places that they wouldn't expect to be getting hooked from. And King Caffeine is actually moving forward. They were thinking about stealing this. Golem Boss is not quite getting there in time. King Caffeine throws down the Putrid Bile to try to lock down or slow the enemy team, but I just don't see themselves having the positioning. They're getting split up. iDream's a little bit too far away, and they're going to have to disengage.
Yeah. So kind of a risky situation where they kind of need to make a play happen. They need to stop that boss. One more curse, and there's another tribute on their doorstep, and they've already lost this one keep, and now they have to defend yet another boss. Actually, they've lost 2 keeps. Excuse me.
King Caffeine throws another hook out. It's actually going to whiff, not hit anyone from the team. So they're actually doing a bit of split pushing. compLexity is they're not actually going to put any solid aggression onto this core, but they're going to posture on the bottom, the south side of the core, so that they can buy time for the Golem to get a lot of hits in on the keep, which has already dropped it down to half HP. They've set themselves up. Now they can back up. Take the curse, as you were mentioning. This one is going to be for the curse, this final tribute. And you can even see that they realize the positioning they have in the map, allowing them to take these golems very aggressively. They need a huge hook, hands down. They need a massive hook, and they need to eliminate that target immediately and get very aggressive and win a huge team fight.
I mean, this is do or die at this point in time for Cloud9. compLexity wants to just put an end to this first match in this best of 5 series. The hook goes out and does not connect.
So
very
close.
close.
Kionda would have been a great target for that.
Well, this is a very dicey situation. You see them rotating up. They just want to eliminate that keep. It is very low, and they are cursed, so the keeps do not fight back during the curse phase. And this is going to be an incredibly tough scenario to defend.
That's right. Golems have taken the shields down, and they can clear these creep waves up very quickly. Now, at this point, the curse doesn't really give any added benefit except for the low HP, and the Starfall being thrown down. The Putrid Bile, King Caffeine is trying to get in there, maximize the damage. McIntyre using Metamorphosis. And the Maws thrown down into Blinks. They have eliminated Tyrande. This is the best time for them to try and take this, but they've lost so much HP in the core. The VP stalling out the aggression.
Is it enough? Is it enough? It's at 12%.
Was McIntyre still alive? No, it's not going to happen. It was a good attempt, and they actually picked up 2 kills for nothing at that point in the game, but the amount of damage that had been thrown down into the core was already too much. A good attempt, but it just seemed kind of like the follow-ups on either the VPs and Maws and or hooks just weren't quite there. They weren't quite impactful enough, and it might have worked a little. I mean, if they were up like a level, or perhaps at even level, maybe that game would have looked a lot different. I mean, it sounds kind of like an obvious statement, but you'd be surprised how much that even just that 2-level gap can make one entire team composition almost completely useless. So we saw that they were having a very difficult time capitalizing on some of those positionings that they were setting up for themselves.
It's true. And where do you think the game actually? How did they get such a big advantage? Was it the early kills that really set the pace? Was it the first curse, the double boss? Like where do you think the game was essentially that big advantage was taken?
There wasn't really a single point that caused the game to go wildly out of control. There were some very impactful and convincing fights for compLexity. But they did pick up a kill advantage. I think they were up 4-1 within the first 3 minutes of the game. They picked up the first 2 tributes very quickly, and that gives them the upper hand, like the negotiating hand in the fights. Like, oh, do we take this tribute? Well, we don't have to. They need to make sure that they deny it.
That's true.
We can try to set up these fights moving forward. And we've seen teams really dabble and mix up how they want to approach the tribute game, because yeah, you can spend all your time soaking to try and get that level lead. That wasn't the case here though,
Right.
because they
Sure.
had lost so many of those early kills early on. They were down levels and tributes, which moving forward, it's so difficult to try and force the positioning for the enemy team.
Well, we saw something cool. We saw the power of Arthas,
Yes.
and it was significant. I mean,